You've been waiting for this since February 6th. Football season is here, and there's no better way to get closer to the game you love than with DraftKings 1-Week Fantasy Football. To celebrate, DraftKings is hosting a $100,000 contest this Sunday that is totally free to enter, and if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. With DraftKings, there are so many ways to play. Choose between public contests with big cash prizes or private contests where you can compete against a group of your friends. That's what I do every single week. DraftKings also has beginner and casual contests where you'll play against people of similar skill level. The best part is you get to draft a new team each week without any commitment. So get to DraftKings.com now and use the promo code REPLAY to play in DraftKings free contest with $100,000 in total prizes this Sunday. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. That's promo code REPLAY to play for your shot to win $1 billion this Sunday. The contest totally free to enter, so why wouldn't you try it? DraftKings, the game inside the game. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for all the details.
Football season is finally here, and DraftKings, the leader in one-week fantasy sports, is giving you a shot to be crowned the first ever fantasy football billionaire. Draft the perfect lineup this Sunday, and you can win $1 billion. Just use code REPLAY to play in DraftKings free contest with $100,000 in total guaranteed prizes this Sunday. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. It's free. Why wouldn't you try? DraftKings.com code REPLAY. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
This is the best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Back and better than ever. Good morning, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and well, wasn't that a surprise? The NFL's opening night party didn't go as planned. Instead, it was crashed in a big way by a stunningly explosive collection from Kansas City. Golick, I picked them to win the AFC, but I did not expect them to win last night. Alex Smith and Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill, what a performance by the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, listen, they give them all the credit in the world. We know how difficult it is to go to New England and get a victory there, and certainly the Patriots had the lead most of the game there. Even when Kansas City took the lead in the beginning of in the third quarter, New England still got it back, had the lead, and then the fourth quarter, it was really that. If you stayed up and watched the entire game, it was a fourth quarter explosion. They outscored, the Chiefs, the Patriots, 21-0 in the fourth quarter, including the second of Alex Smith's 70-plus yard touchdown passes. So, I mean, they got it done, and as Bill Belichick, exactly right, said after the game, they got a lot of work to do. And they do have a lot of work to do, obviously, and they would anyway, whether they got the win or not. But this was not expected. You didn't expect them to lose at home. You didn't expect Tom Brady to complete 44% of his passes. You didn't expect Rob Gronkowski to only have 2 catches in this game. You knew Edelman was out. You lose Amendola. So all of a sudden you look at your third down conversion rate. It's 44% because those are guys you hit on third down, especially Edelman, and where you go forward with this. Now, Kansas City's third down rate wasn't good either. New England missed. They love to go for it on fourth downs, missing on fourth down. So what was I've read articles about when do you usually see the Patriots celebrate as much as they did before that with the huge Super Bowl inflatable trophies out on the field and the score 28-3 and the time left in the game before the comeback, and all that stuff's for the fans. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, the players were out on the sideline watching all that, they're getting too big for their britches. People want to start to throw that into it. I'm going to give Kansas City Chiefs a whole lot of credit. And we always say there's a surprise. The Chiefs themselves aren't a surprise. They're a good team. But when a young player comes out in Kareem Hunt, a rookie, a third-round pick from Toledo, who never fumbles in college, who fumbled his first carry in the NFL and lost it, and then goes on to set all kind of records that we'll get into. That was cool to see. That was a very neat thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's big picture and small picture storylines coming out of this game, as I suppose there are with every game, but never more so than the first game. To me, the biggest big picture storyline, or all of them, are about Kansas City. The notion that New England is now not as good as we thought they were or anything else is ridiculous.
Let me put that real quick. New England lost home openers 3 times and went on to win the Super Bowl. They did in 2001, 2003, and 2014.
Yeah, and in 2003, was that the year they lost 31-0 to Buffalo
they
and
lost,
then made a trade?
31-0 to Buffalo.
Everyone thought that, that's it. Belichick has lost his team.
Right.
And I think they won 14-2 that year and won the championship.
2014, though, was recent. They lost 33-20 at Miami. Then they won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm going to not lose my mind on that one, but I am going to look at the Chiefs and say very impressive.
Yeah, to me, the big picture storylines here are mostly Kansas City related. Here's another reason why it's not so much New England. Now, look, if this starts turning into several weeks of this, then we can revisit that conversation. Right. And while I have been the loudest, certainly on this show, voice among the it has to start ending for Brady at some time soon, it's not going to go like that. Okay, this last night to me was not a sign that the Patriots are not what we thought they were. Here's the other storyline with the Patriots. The Patriots could easily win their division at 10-6. I'm not saying they're going to be 10-6.
No, I'm with you.
But they can.
Yeah.
Kansas City is the team that is in a loaded division.
Yeah, they are.
With a Denver team that has a great defense and a San Diego, they're not San Diego anymore, the Los Angeles Charger team that everyone thinks is improved, and a Raider team that could be a Super Bowl caliber team. So that's a huge road win last night for the Chiefs, and it's one that might wind up being a big factor down the road. The other factor in this is the Kansas City always, and this was one of the thinking, I wanted to pick, for those of you who weren't with us yesterday, I picked Kansas City to win the AFC. I just didn't want to pick New England. I just wanted to go another direction.
I'm with you.
And Kansas City always beats them. I mean, the truth is, if you watch these matchups,
they
always beat them. It was Kansas City beating them 3 years ago that set off all of the Patriots are done conversation and we're on to Cincinnati stuff 3 seasons ago. That's all about Kansas City. So this, while it's a surprise, and while those 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, unbelievable, and Tyreek Hill giving the deuces, and this kid Kareem Hunt, who, as you say, fumbled on his first carry and then set a record for most yards from scrimmage in a player's first NFL game. He had 246 yards from scrimmage, breaking the record by almost 30 yards in the whole history of the NFL. I mean, these are unexpected and unimaginable things that Belichick will get cleaned up like that.
And I think a bigger number for everybody out there is he gave you 45 fantasy points.
What a night.
I mean, incredible. It's only Le'Veon Bell. They're saying had 51 in a game. Again, just to make the point, a third-round pick who they put obviously right in the mix, fumbled his first carry and lost the fumble. Everybody on the sideline getting to him saying, calm down, don't worry about it. 17 rushes, 148 yards later, 5 receptions, 98 yards later, and a couple of touchdowns there, and 1 rushing the ball, and a hellacious stiff arm a couple of times that I'll show you, highlight throughout the show. It was impressive. You got to give the O-line credit as well for the blocking. Mostly this went up the middle to the right side. He only had 1 run to the left, and by the way, it went for 58 yards. And then Alex Smith, the perpetual game-managing quarterback, is on fire with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he is now one of this. I guess this. You say the stat, and then you say some of the names, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not as big as you think. Alex Smith is now 2-0 all-time head-to-head in the regular season against Tom Brady. He joins 3 other quarterbacks.
Don't tell me.
No, with multiple regular season wins without a loss to Tom Brady. There are 3 others who have multiple wins against Brady in the regular season and have never lost to him.
I'm not going to get that. They used to lose to Miami a lot.
There's one that's playing right now that we really like, quarterbacking a team out west that we really think is going to do well this year.
Is it Derek Carr?
No, Russell Wilson.
Oh, Russell Wilson.
Wilson.
Of course, he most significantly lost to him in the Super Bowl, but okay. It's a regular season.
It's a regular season. The other 2, Jake Plummer, Brian Greasy.
Okay, so I wasn't going to get those.
No, you weren't. And so that goes to say, only 3 others, but, a couple of them, not like going down, in history as some of the greatest quarterbacks. But a great performance by Alex Smith, that whole offense, without question.
Here's the other thing that came out of this last night. We talk about Kansas City and their defense. When I brought up Kansas City's defense to Herman yesterday, the first thing Herman said is they take the ball away. Well, they didn't take the ball away last night, but they had a ton of pressure on Brady. After a season in which Brady basically did not see almost any pressure all year long, they had a ton of pressure on Brady last night.
They absolutely did. They had 3 sacks. They were getting it on the corners, Cannon out at right tackle, Solder out at left tackle. They had some problems with the speed rush, and it wasn't sack. There was quicker pressure on Brady. So that they do that well. They had three-man rushes. When they had three-man rushes, Brady only completed 46% of his passes. Last year was 68% of his passes. He did that. Obviously, three-man rush, you have more back, but still, he's normally good enough to still pick you apart. Wasn't able to do that last night.
And they looked like they did a very good job, and you could break this down far better than I ever could. But even I could see watching it that in the early part of the game, they were rushing three guys and dropping all these guys into coverage. And as the game went on, they started bringing more people, and it looked like that even Brady, the great Brady, was not 100% sure where they were coming from at all times, right? They really varied up, if you will, what they were doing defensively.
They were doing a good job beating the O-line. That O-line that we talked about that had done well, especially on the edges there. Kansas City has fast edge rushers, and it showed last night. And they covered well down the field as well. And as we'll get into, could be an issue going forward with Eric Berry, their all-pro safety. It looks like he has a torn Achilles. Now, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think that's what's going to end up.
Brutal injuries.
Torn Achilles. He's going to be done for the year. Edelman already out for New England, such a big third-down guy. Amendola in the third quarter gets a head injury. He's out.
The problem, Amendola, who's a really good, he's just always hurt.
He is always hurt. Listen, that's the one thing. He is always hurt, but he gets hurt. So there's two of the major third-down threats for the New England Patriots that are gone. Dorsett, who they just got in the trade, has to come in, and he's going to have to really elevate his game now. We don't know with Amendola and the head injury. Rob Gronkowski didn't look like Gronk. He just doesn't look like...
Does he look lumbering to you?
He does. He absolutely does. Listen, this is a guy that's dealing with back surgeries and injuries and been nicked up. So you wondered how he was going to come out. Was he ever going to get back to what he was? He did. It looked lumbering, and what a kind of a turn in the beginning. They go down and score. Kansas City fumbles a ball. New England looks like they score again. A catch by Gronkowski gets overruled, called a touchdown, overruled. They go for it on fourth down. They don't make it one of the two times, and Kansas City goes down the other way, and takes advantage of that. So interesting back and forth in this one. Again, New England had the lead going, until the fourth quarter, and then they got their doors blown off there. So they were obviously in this game, but all the credit in the world goes to Kansas City.
All right, let's get this thing cranked up. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot, see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Big numbers. It was the most points ever allowed by a Bill Belichick Patriots team, and that's 307 games, including the playoffs. Kareem Hunt, I gave you the number, 246 yards from scrimmage. Elias says the most ever in a player's first game in NFL history. And here's my favorite stat of the night. Alex Smith threw 2 touchdowns that traveled at least 30 yards in the air last night. Do you know he has never thrown more than 2 of those in any season? He threw 2 of them last night. He's never thrown more than 2 of them in any season in his career.
Well, one was evident to throw because Tyreek Hill was wide open.
So open.
Blown cover. I'll highlight that one a little later. And then the other one, man, he had to see it from the beginning when Kareem Hunt comes out of the backfield, picked up immediately by the linebacker, to which Alex Smith had to be going, okay, this is a win. As Hunt goes straight down the field, and Alex Smith just dropped it right over the top.
Here's the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs on all the big plays.
Not just how they played us, kind of how they played everybody at certain situations, and felt good with them. Like I said, Coach, I thought with timing a couple times tonight was just spot on, and then those guys making plays. You want to be multi-dimensional. You want to be able to spread the ball vertically. You want to be able to run and pass and spread it out horizontally as well. I mean, you want to be able to be good at all these different things, right? Misdirection, inside the tackles, outside the tackles, all those things. You want to be well-rounded. I think that makes you tough to defend. Certainly, I do think we have that ability. But each week is a different challenge, right? I mean, personnel-wise, scheme-wise, next week will be a totally different challenge, and we have to try to find a way to overcome that and beat that. So just because you do it one night doesn't necessarily mean it just carries over.
It doesn't, but I'll tell you this. You can't ask for a better start to a season, with the exception of the loss of Barry, which looks like it's going to be season-long, and that's a terrible injury. But just as far as the circumstance, you get a huge road win in the conference, and now you get 10 days. You get like basically a mini bye going into your second game. So you can't ask for a better start to a season than Kansas City got last night.
And while it's only one game, you can sit there and say, okay, now we know of another weapon we have. We know what we have in Tyreek Hill, a fast individual, whether it's returns or the deep ball. You know what you have in Travis Kelce, who had, for him, a pretty pedestrian night of 5 catches, averaging only 8 yards a catch. Yet, you still know what he is. And then welcome to the NFL, Kareem Hunt. I mean, that's what happens here is you get that surprise, whether it's a surprise game, a surprise play, or a surprise player. A third-round pick running back from Toledo. You know, that's, again, I'll say that's where you make your mark as a team. You know, in the first round, someone's supposed to produce, even into the second round, but that third round on, you find those players that can produce. They find a guy in the third round who never fumbled in college, fumbles his first play, and then runs roughshod over the New England defense. Again, credit to the offensive line as well, but a couple of his stiff arms were fantastic. I love the way he runs. He's solid lower body. He gets you that extra yards going forward, and he has some nice moves as well to avoid tacklers. So that was a really, really nice coming out party for him.
All right, I want to play a couple more sound bites. We have a little news coming out this morning that I want to get to as well here, so let me go through a little bit more of this. Let's give you Belichick here, and then we'll move to some other news, because Belichick, after a loss, is always particularly quiet. Here he was with his 54-second summation of his team's performance.
But we didn't really do much of anything well enough tonight to deserve to win. We gave up 42 points, stopped on 4 short yardage plays. Got to coach better, got to practice better, got to play better. We got a lot of work to do. I mean, that's obvious. So we'll have to get back to work and see if we can improve pretty much everything. Just not good enough. Andy, Kansas City did a good job. Give them credit. But we just really weren't competitive enough, especially on offense and defense. Just made too many mistakes and didn't play well on top of that. Fundamentals weren't good enough. Really nothing was good enough. So we all got to do a better job. That's going to be pretty much the answer to every question, because that's what it was.
Listen, certainly was mistakes, and then they were flat out executed. Oh, by the way, Kansas City, against them, they had 15 penalties for 139 yards. They weren't helping their own cause there, yet they overcame that. The bottom line is New England had the lead at halftime, 17-14. You thought they were actually going to start pulling away in the first half. They didn't. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter, 27-21, and they couldn't hold it. And that is in part, certainly Bill will talk about mistakes, but he also, gave credit to Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and as well they should, for what that team did coming on the road and doing that. But I don't want to be in that film session today. Going to be an ugly one.
Okay, Mike and Mike, tune in tomorrow. The Indians host the Orioles, presented by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Indians, by the way, won again yesterday. Coverage begins 12:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN Radio app. Now, we have a story here that Adam Schefter just reported, and the timing of it is so stunning to me. All right, I'm just going to read you the story. Bear in mind that today in Sherman, Texas, a judge is expected to issue a temporary restraining order to Ezekiel Elliott, which will allow him to continue playing through this season until an appeal is ultimately heard. You all understand what's going on now with the 6-game suspension for domestic violence. One of the things that we have brought up repeatedly during this is that one of the NFL's problems that they have, and one of the things the union is attacking, is inconsistency in application of the policy, which is to say the policy in very big letters says domestic violence equals 6 games. And then in very small letters it says, or it could be more and it could be less depending on the circumstances.
Right.
But that's kind of the fine print. It's almost like the terms and conditions that nobody ever bothers reading.
Nobody ever reads, yeah.
And the one that we bring up all the time is Josh Brown.
Yeah, and you brought up a few others that, by the way, never reached the 6 games.
All right, Quincy Enunwa, Junior Gillette. But Josh Brown was one game.
One game.
One game in a highly publicized case that got a lot of attention. And now, today, on the day that this TRO is going to, the decision is going to be made, and right at the height of the fight over the Zeke Elliott matter, we get this from Adam Schefter. Former Giants kicker Josh Brown is being suspended another 6 games for domestic violence accusations, per league sources. Brown was suspended 1 game last year, but the league launched another investigation and decided to suspend Brown 6 more games on the same day that Cowboys running back Zeke Elliott is waiting to hear from a Texas judge whether he will be granted a TRO that would allow him to continue to play this season. Brown, whom the Giants released last October, told GMA, and then it goes into all the details of the story. The 1-game suspension for Brown was levied last August. He is currently a free agent. So, Mike, there you go.
I mean, what I don't understand, was there new things that came out, or they just went back and they opened the old investigation and did this? I'm not
all
sure
I have
I
for you here is what I'm reading, so we can try and get a hold of Shefty, guys, and see if he has more details. This is what I have. What I just read you is literally everything
Because
I know. The league, here's the wording.
Okay.
The league launched another investigation and decided to suspend Brown 6 more games. That's what I have.
I'm not sure. Listen, we all agree they blew it the first time by not giving them at least the 6 games and that the starting point. Now, again, the CBA and court system are two different things that you're dealing with. If this is based off the old investigation, if you do an investigation and punish somebody, can you go back and reinvestigate the same thing and punish them more? I guess
Mike,
I don't know.
He can do
You're right.
anything he wants.
Yeah,
we've covered this.
But I want to know if that's it. I want to know if that's what's going on, or if there was new evidence somewhere, or if they just went back and said, you know what, we're going to look at this again because, we're getting crushed by everybody for it. It keeps getting thrown back in our faces, in conjunction with the Zeke Elliott thing. And so should we go back and look at it? That we need to try and find the answers to.
Yes. In a courtroom, that would be called double jeopardy.
Yes,
in the
would.
NFL, it's called Article 46. C, Brady, Tom. C, balls, deflated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're dealing in here. And because Brown hasn't played since and isn't going to, you could suspend him for 1 million games. They're not going to make any difference. No one's signing a kicker with this on his record.
He's not being signed.
So this is like an irrelevant, but the cynical among us might suggest it's awfully conveniently timed considering the other things that are going on. Look, I can't sit here and say it's the wrong thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Taking domestic violence seriously is the right thing to do. But, boy, does this feel like the timing is awfully convenient.
The NFL, in trying to get things right, seems to struggle at times in trying to get things right. That this should have been done the first time out with the 6 games, and it wasn't. So now you're going back and doing it again. Is it off the same old information you had? Is it new information? Yeah, there's definitely some questions there.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Okay, Mike and Mike, very busy this morning again off a stunning performance by the Chiefs last night in Foxborough with 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns to take the season opener. The news this morning from our Adam Schefter that the league is suspending former Giants kicker 6 more games for domestic violence, and the timing of it certainly raised our eyebrows. So let's get as much information as we can from the man who has the story and always does. Here's Shefty with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Good morning, Shefty.
Good morning, Mike and Mike. How are you?
We're great. Go ahead. We'll just give you the floor. Tell us the story as if we're hearing it for the first time.
Well, essentially, the NFL is suspending Josh Brown, who had suspended last year for 1 game, 6 more games for domestic violence. Now, it's the same situation. The league will say that it launched another investigation and found more material that required a 6-game suspension. At the same time, it certainly raises the question. I have not seen, rarely seen, seldom seen, if ever seen, a player suspended twice for essentially the same situation at a time where Ezekiel Elliott is facing a 6-game suspension. And look, I think the league is very aware of the perception surrounding it and domestic violence. And I think a lot of people raise the question when the league suspended Ezekiel Elliott, how many times did you hear someone say, well, how could Josh Brown get 1 game when Ezekiel Elliott got 6 games? And now the league believes it has enough evidence to say that Josh Brown is worthy of a 6-game suspension. Now, I go back to what Josh Brown told Good Morning America last February, and he told Good Morning America that he never hit his ex-wife, Molly Brown, and I'm using his quotes where he said, I had put my hands on her. In the chair, I held her down. Holding down was the worst moment in our marriage, but I never hit her. I never slapped her. I never choked her. I never did those types of things. The league made its own determination. It has suspended Josh Brown 6 games, and that altogether will be 7 games. Josh Brown is unemployed. He is out of the league right now. Obviously, teams are waiting to see how this case was adjudicated. I think that they knew it would be coming. And so in the same week where Ezekiel Elliott fights his case, where we're going to hear from a judge in Texas today on whether or not he's granted a temporary restraining order, and as Will Cain pointed out yesterday, the expectation is that he will. Josh Brown, former Giants kicker, suspended 6 games.
So what I'm trying to understand, Shefty, is the league did their investigation, suspended Josh Brown 1 game. So then are we saying there was new information, or did they just reopen the case for, I'm not sure of the reason, or is it because they heard things after that, whether it was Josh Brown's interview or the diaries or whatever that came out? What made the NFL go back to this?
I think the NFL is going to try to justify this by saying the journals surfaced, additional evidence in the league's mind surfaced and the league has the right to do what it wants in terms of disciplining players. Again, comes at a very sensitive time where the league has been under intense scrutiny for the way it handles domestic violence situations. So the league will say that the new evidence of those journals surfaced where there was an admission that he was in an abusive marriage at that point in time. But again, we go back to what Josh Brown said when he told Good Morning America last year in regards to whether I hit her, and I quote, "No, I did not. I did not touch her on the wrist."
All right, that's Adam Schefter. It is pretty much what we thought it was. And
yep.
Schefter, it's great work, as always. We'll check in with you
Thank
later.
you,
If not,
have
have
a
a
good
great
day.
weekend. That's Adam Schefter with us. He referenced our conversation with Will Kane. We'll play that for you in a second. Listen, here's the thing. You cannot in one sentence say, we want the National Football League to be a leader in this extraordinarily significant societal issue, and they should not do the right thing when it comes to this, even if they did the wrong thing to begin with. However, it is just impossible to overlook the timing of this. If they had done this a week ago or 6 months from now or something like that, you could stand on your chair and applaud and say, you know what, they went back, they found more, they're doing the right thing. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing, and that continues to apply. But it is just almost impossible not to at least suspect that the timing of the two are so connected.
Well, considering they supposedly reopened this last October.
Right.
So that's a number of months ago, and then the decision just so happens to come down right now. So I'm with you on that. They seem at times to want to be tough on this, but have been having a tough time being consistent on this. And so I don't know if this is part of announcing now that they want to make the 6 games, and that's how it needs to be for good going forward. I don't know, but I'm with you. It's a head scratcher of you want them to, if you're going to have a policy and you're going to punish people and you can do it under your own power for domestic violence, you want people to lay the hammer. That's what you want about that. I mean, just lay the hammer down. So they're going to do it. You can debate whether you want them to do it or not, but they're going to do it. Then you just have to decide, okay, now, how is the process of them doing it? I'm sorry I talked too much. We can't hear Will Kane.
We'll play the sound off the top of the hour. That's no problem at all. No, you're making the right points. We'll play the Will Kane off the top of the hour. There's no rush on that. He said it yesterday. The point, everything you said is exactly right. I don't disagree with a word that you just said. You want them to take the lead on this. They've sort of set themselves up in a position where they act like they want to take the lead on it.
Yes.
And I really genuinely believe that their intention in that is noble. So I think they want to do the right thing.
Just can't.
They seem to really be struggling to figure out how.
They really do.
And I'm not sitting here telling you that it's easy.
Right. Agreed.
This is an extremely complicated issue that we as a society have not been able to figure out.
Exactly.
But they feel like they're fighting two battles at once. One of them is they want to be a leader in domestic violence. The other is they want to win sort of the PR battle when it comes to their stance on domestic violence. And those two seem not to always coincide with each other well.
First time skydiving? Sure is. Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea. Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Golic is going to make a pick this year every week against the FPI.
The Nerds.
The NPI, as Golic calls it.
Nerd.
Maybe I believe we should call it this year Golic versus the Geeks. And it should be pointed out that while you didn't go head-to-head with them, the Geeks are 0-1. The Geeks gave the Kansas City Chiefs only a 25% chance of winning last night.
Way to go, Geeks.
They had New England a 9.5-point favorite last night, and, of course, Kansas City won straight up.
Good thing I didn't pick that.
Well, we both had that game right technically in Vegas. We both said Chiefs with the points.
Yeah.
We both said we thought New England would win, but we didn't think they'd cover.
I pick on .com with other people, and I pick the Patriots.
Okay, but if you're in Vegas, all that matters is that you had Kansas City and the points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a couple of really big games on the schedule this weekend, and I'm looking at some of the Nerd Power Index stats on that, but you're going to go head-to-head with them in one game. Which is your game?
One game. Again, me against the Nerd Power Index, the MPI. I am going. They give the Detroit Lions, who are at home, just under a 60% chance of winning at home against the Arizona Cardinals. I am taking the Arizona Cardinals on the road to Detroit, getting the win in Detroit. So that will be I'm going against the Nerds, who give about a 60% chance the Lions getting the win at home. I will take the Arizona Cardinals, and I will be 1-0 against the Nerd or the Geeks. I'm with you. Go look against the Geeks.
To use parlance that people are more accustomed to, that percentage equates to about a 3.4%, so let's call it a 3.5-point spread. Basically, the FPI is saying the Lions, in their minds, are a 3.5-point favorite. You're taking the Cardinals on the road for a straight-up win.
For the straight-up win. Listen, I could have, the ones that were, 74% chance of winning, 71%, I would have had to take the Browns over the Steelers, the Jets over the Bills. I wasn't willing to go down that road.
There's nothing wrong with your pick. I'm just trying to put it into terms that people will be more accustomed to. Let me give you a quick look at some of the bigger games on this week's schedule. Obviously, any division game to start things off is critical. Maybe none more so than Giants-Cowboys. Huge spotlight game. We'll find out today. Oh, actually, I take it back. Zeke is playing regardless.
Playing week 1.
Sorry, Zeke is playing
the
regardless.
Question in week 1 is Odell, without question. Zeke's playing, so no issue there.
According to the NPI, the Geeks make Dallas basically a 6-point favorite.
I would make them the favorite right now, playing at home and having Zeke on the field.
Giants swept the season series a year ago.
Yes, they did.
We'll see that Giant D against that great Cowboys offensive line.
Great matchup. I just love that matchup, which, of course, as we've said, the Giants won both regular season matchups last year. I do lean toward the Cowboys in this one.
Give me a thumbnail on that game. Why do you think the Cowboys win?
I do think their offense will still continue to roll, that offensive line. They have Zeke out there. That's the matchup looking for against that defense. And then you have the Dallas defense. I know they've certainly been spotty, but how is Odell Beckham? I need to – is he going to play? How is he feeling he's going to play? I thought Brian Billick gave who was on with us yesterday, a great thought process on – how coaches will say if the medical staff says he can play, then I play him, and that's it. Well, he said, and I thought it was great, he'd ask the doctor, how much can he get better between week 1 and week 2? Can he improve 30 to 40% between week 1 and week 2? Then I'm not playing him. I'm going to sit him. They can say, well, he can improve 10 to 20% because he's almost there back full. He can only improve maybe another 10 or 20%. He goes, then I'm going to play him. So I thought that was very interesting, and I don't know where that is with Odell.
He's barely been on the field. He hasn't done anything.
So he hasn't done anything for a while. So to say he's going to play and come back and play with the authority that we know the way he can play, I don't know. And that's their offense. They don't run the ball very well. I know they have other weapons now, but it's Eli to Odell. You're waiting for him to make that play. So that's a big component that we have a question mark about. So I'll lean to the Cowboys.
They have Brandon Marshall, who's also been hurt all through the preseason. Right. Basically, this is a spot where the Giants went in there and won last year.
Sure
and Zeke had a bad game. Remember, he fumbled a bunch.
His first game, right?
It was his first game. They always play the opening game of the season.
Right.
It's the traditional opener between the Cowboys and the Giants. Why don't we pause on that thought, because there are several really big games. Yeah. We have Seattle going to Green Bay this week. We have Oakland going to Tennessee this week. These are games that could potentially have enormous ramifications late in the season based upon seeding and home field advantage and more, and that's what makes last night's win so huge. The world will come out of last night wondering about the Patriots. Mm-hmm. The world should come out of last night saying the Kansas City Chiefs are for real, and they pocketed a huge win.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Back and better than ever on a Football Friday. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jam-packed today with a thrilling, somewhat stunning And very interesting, opening game last night. Off the field news this morning, as we've been discussing. Damian Woody in this hour, Stephen A. Smith in this hour, and a whole lot more. But you know what we haven't done in a long time?
What's that?
A really long time? Mm-hmm. We haven't done this.
Right now on Mike and Mike.
Let's go.
It's time for the 5-point stance.
Let's get down in a 5-point stance here on Mike and Mike as we look ahead to the NFL's opening weekend with fascinating games all around the way. And it begins with the Buccaneers and Dolphins, Mike, that had been scheduled to play Sunday at 1 Eastern in Miami. That game moved to Week 11 during what turned out to be a very fortuitous mutual bye week because of the potential impact of Hurricane Irma, which is much more important than anything regarding football. But as far as the football, what impact do you expect it to have on these two teams that they will play 16 consecutive weeks?
I don't expect it to have an impact. I mean, you're going to have injuries anyway. And again, the new CBA has you starting your offseason program later, has you in pads a lot less during the regular season. The coach can control things as well. So bye week started in 1990. Since then, there have been 8 teams who played in 16 straight NFL weeks, but none since 2001. They're going to be fine. They're going to – is it the greatest thing in the world? No, but, I mean, come on. I mean, we had to find a solution to this, or the league did. To me, this was the best solution going, and I don't think it will have an ill effect on either team.
No one is arguing that it wasn't the right decision.
Right.
I mean, no one, in my opinion,
I don't think it will
in their right minds, is arguing that. The question is, if every other team is getting a bye week and they don't, doesn't it have to have some impact on them?
You want to say some impact? I'll say some impact, but not enough to me where I'm going to say, you know what? Our season got derailed because of this. No,
I picked the Buccaneers to win the division, so obviously I love them. Falcons begin their Super Bowl revenge tour Sunday in Chicago, and we all know that no reigning runner-up team has won the Super Bowl the following year since the 72 Dolphins. Mike, what do you think of Atlanta and the Super Bowl hangover?
But we do know that since 2008 to now, that the only team to not have at least a 10-win season and get back to the playoffs was Carolina a couple of years ago, coming back from a loss in the Super Bowl. That trend has flipped from before that, years before that, when the Super Bowl loser wouldn't even make the playoffs. So you look at this team and you sit there and you say, man, is there going to be the hangover? What's going to happen? But they look as good as they have, especially offensively. Defensively, they're fast, they're aggressive. You think they're going to be there again, but I think Carolina's going to be better. I think Tampa Bay is going to be better. We'll see about New Orleans' defense, if they can be better, which would make them a better team. So don't know.
Let me ask you this. Every once in a while, there seems to be sort of a magical connection between a coach and a player.
Right.
And it feels like Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan had that last year. How many times did we have people, I remember Dominique Foxworth sitting here and others, just saying they're game planning their way to these wins. They're killing people with that.
That can definitely have
So now he's gone.
Can absolutely have an effect on how you work with quarterback and O-coordinator, quarterback and quarterback coach, how they work together going through the game plan. When you're a veteran like Matt Ryan, you're so involved in a game plan as opposed to when you're younger and basically, well, at least it used to be, you just get handed a game plan and then you go from there. Now it's made with these quarterbacks, especially a guy like Matt Ryan, and that relationship is key.
Yeah, he's replaced by Steve Sarkisian, which is certainly a name everybody knows. We'll see how that turns out and if that offense takes a step back. The Browns start Deshaun Kaiser in their season opener against the Steelers. It is their 27th different starting quarterback since the franchise returned to the NFL in 1999. Candidly, no one has seen more of Deshaun Kaiser than you have with him coming out of Notre Dame. So what's your expectation?
Well, I mean, when I watch him, he's a big, strong, prototypical stand-in-the-pocket quarterback who can hurt you running the ball, and who's got a unbelievable gun for an arm, throws a great deep ball, but has inconsistencies, which isn't shocking, going now and starting in the NFL. He has accuracy issues at times, but that's something he's going to be able to work on. This is, to me, absolutely the right move to start him because they need to find out what they have. I mean, but then the Browns turn out to be the Browns through no fault of their own. Their top pick last year, and Coleman, the receiver, gets hurt. Their top pick of the draft this year, Myles Garrett, has the high ankle sprain. He's going to miss a few weeks. So, I mean, it's unreal what's going on with them, but Deshaun Kaiser is going to get his chance to say, I'm the quarterback of the future here for the Browns.
The one really important thing to remember, if you're a fan of the Browns, the Indians have won 15 straight games. Next in our 5-point stance, Tom Savage is the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. This is a team that has, in my opinion, I think everyone's opinion, a championship caliber defense. The last touchdown, however, that he threw in a game that mattered was against Miami. Not the Dolphins, the Hurricanes. It was November 29th, 2013. He was the quarterback at Pitt. He has 2 career starts. He's never thrown a touchdown. Mike, do they have enough quarterback play in Houston to go with that defense?
Well, listen, when you have a great defense, we saw what the Denver Broncos did. Even when Peyton Manning was a quarterback, they still, as a quarterback unit that year, because Osweiler got in as well, they had, 17 touchdowns and 20-some interceptions?
Yeah.
The quarterback position wasn't really carrying them.
But
it
they
was
had
their
veteran
defense.
moxie, right?
I'm
Veteran
with you.
moxie.
I'm with you. That's why, if there's a struggle there, they'll make the change, because they're a team that's right there. They're a team that division, the Colts they're going to be down, because we have no idea what's going on with Andrew Luck. Jacksonville is just not there yet. To me, it's a battle with Houston and with Tennessee. So if there's struggles by Savage, I would see that move going sooner rather than later to Deshaun Watson,
who everyone seems to believe, and I think rightly so, is the most NFL ready of all the rookie quarterbacks, but he's still a rookie.
And by the way, of the rookie quarterbacks who played in the preseason, had the worst stats. That's why I always say, be careful of looking at the stats, and let's see what happens when they get in the real game.
And finally, in our 5-point stance, it's Eli Manning and the Giants going to Dallas in a Sunday night game, and Eli has the longest active Ironman streak. He has started 199 consecutive games. Manning will become the 3rd quarterback in NFL history to have an Ironman streak of 200 straight, assuming he comes out of this one healthy. The only others to do it, Brett Favre and Eli's brother, Peyton. So that's not something that gets as much attention. We talked about it a lot with Favre. But I really think about it. These two guys, Eli and Peyton, among the careers they've had and whatnot, how good are the Giants going to be this year with Eli if and when they get Odell back and totally healthy?
That's the only question. I mean, they can be a team that can make a run because of their defense and that passing game. We know you can live on the passing game on the NFL. That's where we are. But the most amazing thing to me there is 199, Peyton 208. The 199, Brett Favre has 98 more starts.
Consecutive
starts.
Yeah.
Then Eli.
They never missed.
It's just amazing.
From the time he went on the field to the time he left the field, he never missed a start.
Tough as they come.
He got hurt at the end of his last year, never came back.
Right.
So that was it. They were consecutive, and they were his entire career. And that felt good. A 5-point stance brought to you by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit them at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. Of course, we are one game down and the rest to come in the NFL. And Golic, for everyone just joining us, we obviously have talked about it a bit here, but for the audience just joining us, is your takeaway, the bigger picture takeaways from last night and Kansas City's enormous performance in that huge fourth quarter? Do you feel you come out of that game knowing more about Kansas City or about New England? Did that game inform you more from the Chiefs side or from the Patriots side?
Well, from the Chiefs side, it informed me more that they had their edge rushers, but we knew we had them. The devastating loss of Eric Berry, the Achilles, which is the fear he'll be done for the season. But to me, and you don't want to put everything on 1 week, but for Kareem Hunt, a third-round draft, I'll continue to say this. The first-round draft picks you get on the field, you expect them to do something. You may be expecting too much too soon, but that's the premise, that they're supposed to give you instant help on a team. It's a third-rounder. This is where you create championship teams, by getting guys from the third round, the fourth round, on through the seventh round that are huge factors. Now, this was one game, and we'll see where it goes, but they have no problem. He had 22 total touches, 17 carries, 5 of 5 on thrown to and caught last night. So that, to me, was the biggest get out of that, is how does he go? For the Patriots, I do have concerns. I don't know how long Amendola is going to be back. One of the things they lived on, and it was, as I say, as a defensive player, that just drives me nuts and is so demoralizing, is a 3rd and 5 and you get 5.5. A 3rd and 7 and you get 8. And you got to stay on the field. And it was usually Edelman that caught that ball. And now Edelman's out for the season, so Amendola is going to catch that ball. But the more Amendola plays, the more he gets hurt. Well, he got hurt last night. Who's that guy? Cooks is your deep guy. Hogan is a big-looking, is a taller type receiver. Is it going to be Dorsett? Does he become that guy? Who becomes that guy? They'll find somebody, and Brady will work with that person, obviously, but they had that person. That was kind of a staple, and now they have to find somebody else. I do have concerns about Gronk, and you have to see how that defense, whether you're in the right place at the right time or not, you got blocked and you got out-executed. So I do have some concerns there.
Some of the numbers out of last night, 42-27. It's the most points ever allowed by a Bill Belichick Patriots team in 307 games, including playoffs. Kareem Hunt was sensational, 246 yards from scrimmage. That is, according to Elias, the most ever in a player's first game. The previous record had been 217, shared by Anquan Bolden and Billy Sims in 1980. And maybe more remarkable, Golick mentioned Kareem Hunt, the third-round pick, fumbles on his first touch and then comes back and has that
and
night.
Never fumbled in, I don't know if you mentioned that, I'm sorry.
In college,
Never fumbled in college. And also in this game, what do they say? How do you beat the Patriots? How do you stop Tom Brady?
Keep him off the field?
Hit him. 3 sacks last night.
Yeah.
When you get sacked,
they hit him all night.
You get hit more. And we saw that a couple of years ago when they were going through a lot of line changes. He was getting hit a lot. But that's what you do. He's a guy that will throw the ball away, to live to another play. But the pressure was coming on him pretty quickly last night, and he was getting hit. That's the way you get a guy who is considered the greatest of all time to complete 44% of his passes. You hit him, you knock him down, you hit him again.
And look, I don't want to start this whole debate again, and I'm not in any way suggesting we write Brady off after one tough night. No. But when you're 40, those hits have to feel different than they do when you're 26. So one of the things that we take almost for granted with Brady is that he's going to continue to play because he's very good at not getting hit. But when the pressure's getting in there the way it was last night, and not every team has edge rushers like these guys
exactly
do.
Right, yeah.
And look, Belichick will get that cleaned up. But he got hit a lot last night, and that can't be good for a player of any age, particularly at that age.
One good thing, and it's a great note by Stanzik, that the 72 Dolphins, they got to pop their champagne early last night.
Yeah, so much for 16-0. So who will be? Who will be the team? Here's a good little question for you. Here's a good one. Everyone assumed the Patriots were the team that was going to go the longest this year before losing a game. Well, there's been one game played. They're the only team with a loss. By the way, the winner of Jets-Bills will be alone atop the AFC East at the end of Week 1.
Take a picture.
Because the Dolphins don't play and the Patriots lost. But that said, which team will go the longest this year without losing a game? It's kind of unfair to say without seeing everybody's schedule in front of you. But there are monster games on the schedule this weekend, and I want to get to those. So let's dive to that. Let's tune in for college football action tomorrow, Oklahoma and Ohio State. That's a great game. It's presented by Goodyear. Coverage starts 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. All right. I want to do some of these games. I was going to play some of the sound bites, but let's dive right into some of the games on the weekend schedule because there are some monster games. Seattle at Green Bay. Our nerds, our FPI with this game at Lambeau Field, favor the Packers basically by 4.5 points. That equates to a 62% chance to win. A lot of people like a lot of things that Green Bay did during the offseason, making some moves to make that defense better. Obviously, they have Rodgers. We'll see Sheldon Richardson for the first time for real with Seattle. The questions on the offensive line for the Seahawks, running back by committee. What is your expectation at Lambeau Field Sunday?
Well, I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, you have him, so you have a huge advantage in my book. And again, Martellus Bennett, the tight end, with the receivers they have, including a Jordy Nelson and a Randall Cobb, of what you can do on the outside to open up what Bennett can do, or if Bennett starts to become that threat, what Bennett can take away and own the middle of the field to open up the outside for the receiver. So they have the weapons there. I still wonder about their running game. And then defensively, I mean, they've been working on DBs forever on that defensive side of the ball. Now, it's not like Seattle is this pass-happy team, but you have a very smart quarterback in Russell Wilson that could take advantage of situations. I'm interested to see how the three-headed monster goes from the rushing attack from Lacey, and you have Lacey, you have Rawls, you have Procise, who can be that mismatch coming out of the backfield. The line certainly does concern me. I still think Jimmy Graham has been getting more and more involved in that offense. Jimmy Graham can, get elevated back to see if he could be one of the top tight ends in this league again. I love his athleticism. In Green Bay, I mean, and Aaron Rodgers, we both picked Seattle to make it to the Super Bowl. I could easily see Seattle winning this game. The matchup is obviously the Seattle defense against Aaron Rodgers and the offense. I mean, do I sit there and dare say Seattle goes on the road to Green Bay in Week 1? And now, certainly for Seattle, it's way better to go to Green Bay in Week 1 than Week 11. Right? There could be a lot of snow on the ground. So this is a great chance for them to get it done. I got a sneaking suspicion about the Seahawks in this one.
Meaning they're going to win.
Going on the road and winning this game.
I do too. And here's the other thing. Is it overstating it to say that these are probably the two most frequently picked teams in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl? Probably these two and the Cowboys, Zeke dependent. So is it overstating it to say this game could wind up determining where the NFC Championship game is played? You know, when we get to January 20 whatevereth, will they be playing in Seattle in front of the 12th man, or will they be playing in Lambeau Field? I mean, this is a game that could have enormous impact going down the season, and I like Seattle.
And last year, Green Bay had them in December at home and drilled them 38-10.
Right. And then, of course, they played the NFC Championship game a few years ago, and Green Bay had them dead to rights and lost that game. Another monster game on the schedule this weekend, in my opinion, is Oakland at Tennessee. Now, this is a fascinating one because you got the Raiders going east. They're playing at that horrible 1 o'clock start. We've all seen the stats on West Coast teams going east and playing that 1 o'clock game. They go to Tennessee. These are two young teams with young quarterbacks that a lot is expected from. Mariota back from the injury. Sexy pick to win that division. Oakland, Derek Carr, he's your MVP pick. Are the Raiders the team that could dethrone New England in the AFC this year? The FPI has this basically at pick'em. It's a 1.5 point spread in favor of the Titans, who are at home. So you got Tennessee. Call it 1.5.
Yeah.
At home, Raiders. How do you see this?
I lean toward the Raiders on this one. That big offensive line. The question marks for Tennessee. They have an excellent offensive line, especially on with Taylor Lewan and Conklin at tackles. Two excellent running backs in Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. I love what the quarterback is doing. So I like what they have on offense. Their defense, I think, is coming along, but you're starting out against this big offensive line from the Raiders. They're going to try and be a smash-mouth rushing attack to go along with Derek Carr and his passing. Khalil Mack, you know, he's a guy that people are starting to say, can he take that next level to be that defensive player of the year? Up in that category, like a Luke Kuechly, a J.J. Watt. Can he kind of be that guy that you move around everywhere and kind of take over a game? So I like Oakland. I picked them to win the division. I also picked the Titans to win the division, but I think Oakland's a better team at this point. So I'm going with two road teams here. But we're having Seattle beat the Packers and the Raiders beat the Titans.
And the Raiders don't mind going east. Now, this is one of those that it's sort of like the sportscaster jinx. The second you mention it, it goes the other way. But the Raiders have won 6 straight games that started at 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's actually tied with the Patriots for the longest active streak in the league and tied with the 49ers in the 90s for the longest streak by a team from the Pacific time zone in the last 25 years. That statistic and so many that we have here come from the Elias Sports Bureau. So they've come east and played well.
Yeah.
First game of the season, it's just so tough to figure out.
Oh, it absolutely
Thinking
is.
of John Gruden. So my gut feeling is that the Raiders are the better team, but I have a feeling the Titans are going to win this game. I don't know why, but I have a feeling the Titans are going to win this game at home. I'd like to see if Tennessee can be a little bit more explosive. They tried to address that in the draft. The one thing the Titans have not been, as Mariota has been improving, he's been unbelievably good in the red zone, and they have good tight end play in Delaney Walker, and they're big and physical and mean, and they smash the ball on you. Can they be a little bit more explosive? And if you can't be an explosive team, Brian Billick always has that toxic differential with big plays and how significant big plays can be. Can the Titans have more of those? Can they have more explosive offensive plays? What a difference that would make.
That's what they looked for when they grabbed the wide receiver Corey Davis from Western Michigan in the first round. So that's exactly what they're looking for. They have that offensive line. They have that rushing attack. They need to have some big playability down the field.
Here's how bad. Just as a quick thought, and you're gonna every single day you're gonna have to just indulge me 90 seconds on the Jets.
Oh.
Okay, can I have 90 seconds on the Jets?
I'd rather you take 10 seconds.
The NPI makes the Jets the biggest underdog of the entire weekend. Now, don't count.
Okay.
The NPI makes the Jets basically a 10-point underdog this weekend at Buffalo, a Buffalo team of which very little is expected. That is a bigger spread than they have on Pittsburgh-Cleveland. So Pittsburgh is a team a lot of people think is going to the Super Bowl. Cleveland was by far the worst team in the NFL last year, and starting a rookie quarterback, they actually have the Jets. Granted, the Browns are at home and the Jets are on the road, but so, they actually make the Jets a bigger underdog at Buffalo than the Browns are against the Steelers.
If you want to feel any better, the Nerds have the Jets second to the Browns as far as they
as the worst team in the sport.
The Browns as the worst team to win this week. They have the Jets as second. Right? I'm reading that right.
No, I don't believe you are. That's the reason that the Jets are the biggest underdog.
Browns, 74%. Steelers, 74% chance of winning, 9.
So why do we have two different sheets? You know what? The sheet you have, the sheet you gave Golick might have been when Tyrod Taylor hadn't been announced to come back yet. The one I'm looking at has Buffalo by 9.8. It actually has
Can
the
I ask
Jets
you a question?
Yeah.
Either way, does it really matter?
No, both are going to lose.
There you go.
Mike and Mike, we've made our way over to the GNC Lounge, and that is where we find our friend and colleague, the one, the only, Damian Woody, has taken a moment away from his Twitter feed. where
only a moment.
A fascinating follow on all kinds of topics. He's tweeting about football. He's tweeting about politics.
You do a wide variety of things. Yes, you do.
I try, man. I try to serve the people,
Sending his kids off to school yesterday, an adorable picture. But you have quite a few.
I have a tribe.
How many kids do you have?
7.
7 kids.
I have 7. So my wife is she's feeling pretty good right now.
7.
Now,
how old were the ones you sent off to school yesterday?
Man, 16, 15, 13, 10, 9, and 5.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
I'm
pretty
exhausted.
impressive that I remember that, right?
I'm exhausted just hearing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And, man, you must sleep soundly.
Man, I'm getting good sleep. I'm getting some good sleep, man, because when they come home from school, they're done.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. I'm good.
All right, I'm guessing Bill Belichick didn't get a lot of sleep last night after the way his defense looked, after the way his offensive line looked, and a few other things. You played for Belichick for years, so give all of us a sense of what this morning is probably like for those players when they show up.
Oh man, that Wednesday morning film session is going to be a monster. I've been a part of that, but this is great. If you're Bill Belichick, this is a great thing because what happened last night is a very teachable moment. That's what Coach Belichick loves to do. He loves to teach. So there's going to be a plethora of plays and situations that happened in that football game last night where he'll be able to lay it out. And plus, it's early in the season. When we traditionally talk about the Patriots, they want to get better around Thanksgiving, November. So to have these things happen now and be correctable, I mean, that's a great situation for the Patriots.
So let's start on that side of it with the Patriots. What did you see that you think could plague them still going forward? We know they're great game planners and such, but what can last badly for them?
Okay, so a couple things. One, going into the game, I thought, what is the Patriot offense going to look like without Julian Edelman? Because Edelman's always been that security blanket for Tom Brady. He's been that chain mover, the guy that's made the clutch catch to really extend drives and ultimately score touchdowns. Clearly, that was a situation that bears watching. Gronk didn't look like Gronk. I thought he didn't look as nimble.
He looked like he was lumbering.
He didn't look like he was the same athletic guy that we've been accustomed to seeing over the years. Now, that might be, guy that's coming off back surgery, and this is the beginning of the season where guys aren't going to be, optimal. But I thought that, just watching the game, that really popped off at the screen. And then I think for me, the biggest thing was the Patriots' front 7 on defense. I mean, they have some issues up front on their front 7. First of all, there's no one in the front 7 that you, game plan-wise, you look at and like, oh, we need to game plan for this guy. The closest guy you probably think about it is Dante Hightower when he got injured in that game. Right. But the problem for them going forward is, one, linebackers didn't look very fast on defense. You saw Chiefs getting the edge time and time again in the running game. And two, goes back to the point I was just saying, they weren't able to set that edge. And for all the people out there, what I mean by set that edge, when you watch the game last night, the Chiefs kept getting outside. In a Bill Belichick defense, you rarely see that happen where a team time and time again gets the outside on that Patriots defense. So they're going to have to do – that's going to be a major fix for the Patriots to not allow teams to be able to do that because, Mike, you know this playing the game. Once you show it on film 1 week – teams are going to keep doing it over and over again until you show that you can stop it.
So how do you stop that? Let's go a little football 101 here. Mm-hmm. Setting the edge strikes me as just having the furthest to the outside person, right? If that guy's wearing blue, you've set the edge.
Right.
Why wasn't it happening last night?
I think what happened physically, whether it was schematically what the Chiefs were doing or just Chiefs guys winning one-on-one matchups, just being able to collect the guys on the outside, being able to move them in, and allow the Chiefs runners to be able to get outside and just rush all over the field. So for New England, the defensive ends, because they were pretty much running a lot of 4-3 personnel on defense. Those guys on the outside have to be able to shut down the offensive lineman for the Chiefs or tight ends or whoever's on the outside edge. You got to be able to shut them down and funnel everything back into the inside where all your help is. Again, too many times last night you saw the Chiefs running outside time and time again. That's not winning football.
From a defensive side, a couple of ways to set the edge. As Woody said, you can have that end, just play his hands and skate to the outside. Now you're on the line of scrimmage. Well, a good old lineman is going to get engaged and get a hold of you, so you can't just skate outside. He's going to stop you from doing that and stop you from moving outside. Now the corner is short, and you get a puller coming around there like you saw Kelsey come around and do a nice cut down the field, and the play gets outside. The other thing you can do defensively, get upfield and stop the play. Get upfield a little bit and stop it from going outside. Make the runner either have to bounce outside or cut it all the way back, and then you need to play discipline on the backside. The problem with that, if you get upfield too quick, you can create a hole right inside that guy going up the field.
Mike and Mike, Damian Woody's here in the GNC Lounge. Mix it up with the GNC Buy Two, Get One Free Mix and Match sale. The best thermogenics, vitamins, fish oil, and more from Performix are all buy two, get one free. The sale ends September 27th only at GNC. To me, watching the game, the thing that I thought was the most telling was how many times Tom Brady got hit. He's 40 years old, and I don't care how comfortable your sleepwear is, and I don't care how the last time you ate, anything besides an avocado was. But when these guys are hitting you at the age of 40, that has to make a difference. Why? I get it. The Chiefs have great edge rushers. But is that something that you think is a longer-term concern on that O-line, Damian Woody?
Well, I don't really worry about the Patriots O-line because they have one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the National Football League in Dante Scarnecchio. But what you have to do, first of all, you got to give a lot of credit to the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Bob Sutton, for the type of game plan that he drew up. What you saw in the first half, they did a lot of three-man rushes, and one of my main complaints during the first half was they weren't getting home. They just weren't getting home. And Tom Brady was just sitting back there, and it was basically like 7-on-7. Mm-hmm. He was sitting back there surveying the defense and making all the throws. Second half, you start to see adjustments by Bob Sutton on defense, mixing things up, because one of the things you have to do against Tom Brady, you can't keep giving him the same picture every time. If you do that, he's going to kill you. Got to keep mixing it up. So he mixed up three-man rushes. They started bringing some pressure from Justin Houston and D Ford from the outside. Once you start doing it, combined with the coverage on the back end, guys playing man-to-man coverage, and that's really key in getting pressure. Right. The back end of the defense really has to hold up so those guys can get home, and that's what you saw from the Chiefs. They were able to lock those guys down on the outside and allow Justin Houston, D Ford to get home, and they just started getting more and more pressure in the second half.
So let's look at it from Kansas City's side now and the positives for them going forward. Losing Eric Berry, that's a huge hit for them with the Achilles. But looking at them, what did you see that said, okay, I can see this happening in week 2, week 4, week 5?
Well, I think, listen, the most encouraging thing, for the Kansas City Chiefs is explosive plays offensively. Mike, in this league, you can't dink and dunk and expect to win a whole bunch of football games. You have to have explosive plays because it's so hard to drive the length of the football field for a number of plays and be able to score points. You got to have explosive plays to really help your team to generate a lot of points in this league. And what you saw from Alex Smith in that offense, boy, did they exploited matchups, and they got a bunch of explosive plays, whether it's from Kareem Hunt, right? Tyreek Hill, a bunch of different people contributed to those type of plays. And what it does is it just flips the field. It flips the field quickly, puts the defense on its heels, and again, they were able to exploit matchups.
So is this a new Alex Smith, and why did we see this last night when this has never been his MO? There's so much talk that the Chiefs – forget about what they say. I made this reference earlier. Just look at what they did. They traded up to take a quarterback in the draft this year. So Patrick Mahomes is going to be Andy Reid's quarterback at some point. So does Alex Smith just finally say, heck with it, I'm throwing the ball down the field? Why was he so different last night?
Well, one of the tweets I put out this morning, I'm like, it's amazing. Chiefs draft Patrick Mahomes, and then all of a sudden the Alex Smith and the Kansas City Chiefs offense turned into the greatest show on turf, reborn. It's amazing when you have competition behind you, what it can do for your play. And again, we've known that's been the rap on Alex Smith is he takes care of the football, which is great, but he's been really conservative in his play. Now, you got a little competition from a rookie who's been showing out in the preseason. He's really been, last night he really opened things up and exploited matchups. And that's what you have to do. When you have matchups in your favor, you got to exploit it.
Just so we don't get too crazy over the top, let's remember that the touchdown to Hill was a blown coverage.
Right, exactly.
And he was wide open. And as far as matchups, I think teams are going to find out Kareem Hunt and a linebacker. As I showed on that play, when you saw that man-to-man and Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield, you had to be thinking, uh-oh, and it was uh-oh. So there were a couple of situations where it was right there for Alex.
Well,
Smith
I mean,
to
think about this. I tell people all the time, the Chiefs had 138 yards in penalties. They lost the turnover battle, and they won running away in Foxborough.
Mm-hmm.
That never happens to New England. New England is one of those teams where their whole philosophy is more teams find ways to lose games than win them. And for the Chiefs to be able to overcome all of that and still be able to get a win in Foxborough, it's a heck of a job by Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs.
The best of Mike and Mike.
I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
We do this every year. We have our group that plays DraftKings.
Yes.
It's in your family, my family. Darius Rucker jumps in it as well. Thinking of making up a little trophy for this year. Maybe a little belt. A little something. We'll keep track of who wins the most money and then hand it out at the end.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Some sort of – I'm much more good with that than – I would much rather have the celebration of the winner than the punishment of the loser.
No.
I've gone through enough of those.
I saw enough of that, and we're not doing that. Let's just give the winner something and let them gloat.
The question is that we've done in the past – you can set these any way you want on DraftKings. So I've set it so that the first place finisher every week gets some money, and the second place finisher gets a little bit less. We're going to have. We were just counting it up. We're going to have as many as 10 people playing in these head-to-head matchups.
Why don't you? You're the one who kind of sends out all the. Why don't you send one out and see what people think?
So maybe we'll all the way down to a third place.
Maybe we'll get one first, second, and third.
The one thing I can say is that it is a lock that Stace will not win this week because Brady has already played.
Good point.
Her quarterback is Tom Brady every single week.
Her team will have no quarterback.
She might play without a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
She'll petition to do that. All right, Mike and Mike, let me give you forward thinking here. It's brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit them at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. We got a doubleheader this Sunday, the NFL on ESPN Radio. The Eagles travel to Washington, and then Game 2 is the Rams hosting the Colts. Coverage starts noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Great to have a full Sunday of NFL action.
And with that, NFC East, we talk a lot about the Giants and the Cowboys, but Washington and Philadelphia, where are they right now with Terrell Pryor taking over as the number one receiver? Kirk Cousins yet again rolling the dice on himself. Where is that defense right now? Carson Wentz ready to take that next step for this offense. Rams favorite over the Colts. Again, Andrew Luck not playing. Jared Goff, 7 starts last year. It seemed like everybody wanted to run him out of town already. He gets and been looking pretty good this preseason. Where does he go? Where in his development? He's still got a ways to go, obviously, but now, it is his team from the jump, and let's see where he takes it.
The television rating for last night's game is in. The rating is a 14.5 for the NFL kickoff game. I'm just going to read you the comparisons. That was down 11% from last year and down 18% from the year before. For what this is worth, I understand that there was something in the rating this year that in Houston and in Miami they did not count, and you'll have to forgive me. I don't know if that's because due to the extraordinary circumstances in Houston after Harvey and now in Miami with the pending concerns about Hurricane Irma, it's possible the game wasn't shown there last night. Someone could let me know that. I'm sure the Le Batard guys could answer that question immediately. For some reason, that seems to have impacted the rating. Now, whether that affected it enough that it would have made this kind of difference, I honestly don't know. This is the rating. This is what we do know. And what I'll say about it is this. You can look at that one of two ways. The numbers are down. Television ratings in general are just down because of how many more things there are on television at all times and the fact that younger generations of people just don't watch television the same way older people do. The other is that's going to be the highest-rated show of the week. So, I know what 14.5 looks like.
Right. So how do you rationalize it? Boy, the NFL is not as popular yet. It's still the most popular thing people watch.
Yeah, look, they're not going to want it to be down. You never want down.
No, you do not.
No,
you do not.
Al Michaels was on with us, about a week and a half ago, and he said people keep talking about how no one's watching the NFL. Well, I look at the end of the season, and we were the highest-rated show on TV for the entire year. Sunday Night Football on NBC was, and then I think the Thursday nights between NBC and CBS were like 3 3 and 4 or something like that, the most watched shows on television. At this point, that's all you can be.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, but you can still say, but not as many people are watching. You were just winning by so much that people may be catching you. And the way to look at it from a sports side is the other big sports. How are their ratings? You know, at the end of the year, when you put it all together, is everybody down? Is somebody up? Is somebody gaining while others are losing? I mean, there are ways you can put all of this into perspective.
One way or another, let's try and put into perspective the opening game of the season. Do you believe that we should be more optimistic based on the Chiefs' performance last night, or more pessimistic based on the Patriots' performance last night relative to whatever your expectation for that team was?
I do have concerns with the Patriots, with the Edelman injury, the Amendola injury, how Gronk looked to me in starting out the season. But I look more to the Chiefs, who I liked as a team. And now the Eric Berry injury really hurts. But they looks like, at least from week one, got themselves a nice weapon in Kareem Hunt for the running back of today. 5 catches out of the backfield, a mismatch you find in the passing game to go along with a running attack. That is huge.
Football is back and better than ever. A full slate of college games tomorrow, a full slate of NFL games on Sunday, and we'll be back and better than ever to talk it all over with you on Monday. See you then. Mike and Mike.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standards.